Welcome back, everybody. This has been a long time coming. You don't even know how long this took. I don't even want to think about it. I don't know if you actually see it with like visual differences or whatever, but it took a long time. This is my reaction to episode 22 and 23, probably 22 and 23 of Spice and Wolf. We have 25 episodes total for the season, so that leaves 2 episodes that we still have to watch. Hopefully I'll get to watch them soon. That being said, last time we were in the little quaint village of Terrio, I think, which had a church dispute going on between the church of the neighboring town and this village, which had an unequal contract when it comes to the delivery of goods. So the other town wanted to end that contract with the passing of the church priest, Father Franz, because the little village technically was worshipping a pagan god. The church could have reason to attack them, right, and take over and end this whole thing. But there seemed to have been some powerful noble or some kind of person who is influential that would be backing the new church priest, which is Elsa, that we've gotten to know very shortly, as the new town's priest successor, kind of. This would ensure that the church would still be in power in that village, right, and officially just not raise any doubts about the faith of people there. It would protect the village. It would probably uphold the contract. It would probably keep all of the things the way they were up until now and prevent the church from acting hostile against them. And Elsa is kind of, I guess, a couple-ish with Evan, who is the miller. They're kind of together. Everybody supposedly knows that they're meeting at night and stuff like that, right? We got a couple of other townspeople. I think Ilma is like the barmaid who was a traveling barmaid kind of deal, ale woman, whatever, and made her own ale and whatnot. This is very interesting with the stories they told, and they actually went drinking with the townspeople and kind of gotten to know a couple of things. And Lawrence kind of figured that out, the whole deal about the churches and what the conflict actually is. And what we're actually trying to find out is stories about pagan gods, because we want to get to that place that Father Franz apparently, and Father Franz was supposed to know, kind of, right? That would be the location where we would find more stories about pagan gods, which would lead us to more stories about Yoitsu and more stories maybe about the bear that was threatening, or that, according to the stories, was destroyed Yoitsu, and maybe even just generally more about these times and these old stories that Holo and Lawrence as well want to know more about. So I guess this is where we're going right now. I don't know what we're about to do. Holo had some kind of idea where she was like, I got an idea, let me whisper it into your ear and let the audience not hear what we're about to plan. So this is probably going to be the episode where everything unfolds and we're going to get to know what they actually have been cooking. So if this actually concludes this little arc, we might end it and do like a 3-parter next time. I do hope it doesn't. I do hope it's going like 2 episodes, and then we're gonna have another 2 episodes after that fit together nicely, but we'll have to see. Either way, we're gonna watch this, and I'm gonna be very eager because it's been a long time since I read that part of the story. I vaguely remember some of that. I don't remember all of it, so let's get into it. Spice and Wolf, episode 22 starts in 3, 2, 1, bam. Oh, yeah, we knocked. You're so very abrasive.
何か大変な状況だったようですね。
また修道院のことですか。
いえいえ、村長さんもご存知なかったので、一杯食わされたのかもしれません。
そうですか。
なのでもう立つことにしたのですが、こちらの教会で道中の安全をお祈りしたく思いまして。
There's some things to criticize about the new remake, but there's parts I like as well, right? Like the painting style backgrounds in the OP. Almost like you're looking at all of this from a picture book story, right? Like a tale of old kind of style.
こちらに。それではお祈りを。
フランツ司祭は信仰の熱い方だったんですね。
ええ、そうですね。ただ言われるまで気がつきませんでした。
Okay. Interesting.
ではお祈りをしましょう。
Attention to
そ
detail.
の前に懺悔をしたく。
はあ。それでは別室にて。
いえ、こちらで。できれば神の面前で。
わかりました。あなたの罪を聞き届けましょう。神は常に正直なるものに寛大です。
私は嘘をつきました。自分の利益のために相手を騙しました。
あなたは神の前で真実を告白する勇気はありますか？
あります。
恐れることはありません。神は正しき信仰に目覚めた方にはいつも寛大です。
私は今日嘘をつきました。偽りの目的を告げて相手を騙すためです。
何のために？
どうしても知りたいことがあり、嘘をついて相手に近づきました。
それはどなたに？
You.
エルサさん。私は嘘をついたことを神の面前で告白いたしました。そして真実を告げます。あなたに D エンドラン修道院の場所を聞きに来ました。いえ、私はまた嘘をつきました。場所を聞きに来たのではありません。エルサさん、ここは D エンドラン修道院ですね。そしてフランツ司祭がルイズラーナ・シュティングヒルト修道院長。間違いありません。
They're the same person.
神の面前です。嘘をつくことは許されない。私たちはフランツ司祭が集めた異教の神々の話を知りたいのです。エルサさんの心配はフランツ司祭の行いがエンベルクにバレないかですね。
あなた方は何者なんですか？
わっちらが何者であるかという質問に満足に答えることはとても難しい。
難しい。
こういうことじゃ。触ってみるかや。
A bit creepy, although. Alright, rip.
思ったよりも肝が小さかったかな。
どうかな。あの手紙、よその領主がこの教会の後ろ盾になるって内容だった。届くまで毎晩忙しかったんだろう。
Maybe exhausted too.
辛い状況にあったのかもしれない。大丈夫ですか？
夢ではなかったのですね。
夢と思ってくれた方が助かるの。
悪魔は人に夢を見せて騙すと言いますが、
私たちは目的が達せられれば夢であったかのように立ち去ります。ここにはフランツ司祭が集めた記録があるはずです。
なぜそんなものを？
わっちゃ故郷に帰りたい。
故郷？
故郷を立ったのはもうはるか昔のこと。
Mm.
道も忘れ、故郷の連中が元気にしておるかもわからぬ。それどころか、未だ故郷があるかどうかすら定かではない。どう思うかや？もしもそこに故郷のことを知る者がおるやもと思ったら。
私は神のしもべです。ですが同時にフランツ司祭の後を継ぐものです。私はあなたを悪魔つきだとは疑いません。フランツ司祭は悪魔つきなどいないと常々言っていましたから。ついてきてください。
Where does possession, like the concept, even come from on a religious basis? Because, like, I know, like, being tempted by the devil, right? But possessed? I do wonder where these stories come from. I'm not as Bible like. I'm not as knowledgeable about the Bible. Secret compartments. Ooh, holy shit. It's gotta be heavy. Takes a lot to trust somebody else.
主の方がよほど疑り深いの。
どうも、お待たせしました。
いえ、それは
手紙です。私宛ての。地下には本がありました。おそらくあなた方の探すものだと思います。
持ち出して読んでも。
教会の中だけでお願いできますか？
Don't take them out. Clever, smart.
無理なことを頼んでしまいました。お礼とともにお詫びします。
ええ、確かに強引でしたからね。しかしフランツ司祭はお喜びでしょう。自分の集めた話は作り話ではない。それが口癖でしたから。ただあれほどの量があるとは、全部読む気でしたら宿を取り直された方がよろしいのでは。
ですが、その間に人を呼ばれるかもしれません。
私は真実の信仰を抱いて生きています。罠にはめるようなことはいたしません。先ほどの礼拝堂でも私は嘘をついたわけではありません。
私が罠にはめたわけですからね。
商人の方は油断ならないと覚えておきます。
You definitely shouldn't. Also, I just realized this is the scene in the OP.
構いませんが、ろうそくは消してください。この教会は裕福ではありませんので。
商人が天の御国へ登りたければ金袋を減らすことだと聞きました。
感謝いたします。神のご加護がありますように。
見張っていなくていい。
Church is totally not corrupt.
をもたらす気がなければ騒ぎ立てる気はありません。確かにあなたがお連れの方はこの教会にいてはならない存在です。ですが、
疑うのも確かにもっともなことだとは思います。
いえ、疑っているのかと問われれば肯定します。ですが、問題はもっと大きな。
私は懺悔を聞くことはできませんが、相談くらいならば多少は乗ることができます。
Especially when it comes to trading, right?
真摯に話を聞けるのは金儲け以外についてですが。
Of course.
いえ、確かに私が抱く疑問はあなたのような方に問うのがいいのかもしれません。聞いていただけますか？
満足のいく返答をできるかは保証しかねます。
もしもあの地下室に集められた話が嘘ではないとすれば、私たちが信じる神は嘘なのでしょうか？
Why do both have to exclude one another?
北の神々の話を集めていました。異端の権威がかかったことも一度や二度ではなかったと言います。それでも日々の祈りを欠かさない立派な聖職者だったんです。あなたの連れの方がもしも本当に異教の神なら、私たちの神は嘘ということになる。私には分かりません。聖水と聖典を持ってあなた方を責め立てる勇気が私にはありません。それがいいことなのか悪いことなのかすら。
私は下賤な行商人なので神の教えに詳しくありません。何が正しく何が間違っているか判断はできません。ただしフランツ司祭は間違っていないと思います。
それはなぜですか？あのノックはセムソン長です。多分あなた方のことだと思います。あなた方からよその国や町の教会のありようを聞いているということにします。これは嘘というよりも。
ええ、 わかりました。私の経験談でよければお話ししますよ。
Not completely a lie, I guess.
ずいぶん親身じゃったな。
商人はいつだって取引相手に対して親身だからな。
Hmm.
村長との会話。
Out of the trades.
おおむね言っていた通りの対応じゃ。セムとやらが今ちょうど帰りんす。
問題は時間だ。もたもたしていたら雪の季節になって足止めされてしまう。
じゃが読み切れるかわからぬ。
ざっと目を通すだけなら二人でかかればなんとかなるだろう。どうした？
一人は会いたと言ったじゃろうが。
Take the hint.
村長は一応変えられましたが、その先ほどのでは後ほど。
He's like, don't let me disturb you. He's like, no, it doesn't. It's not what it looks like. We do a little trolling here.
誰が教会に来たか。わかった。エヴァンだな。
腹が減りんす。
そうだな。一度休憩にするか。エヴァンに正体は隠しておこう。
あの小娘が喋らぬかはわからぬがの。
一日にしたくしゃみの回数までエヴァンには喋っているのに、俺たちが初めて教会を訪ねた時のことは話してない。
そうは言っても不安じゃの。
寄付も受け取ったし、そういう打算が通じる相手さ。何より神は信用できなくても、神を信じる者たちは信用できる。
You can trust those who are faithful to him, okay?
妙なことで悩んでおったな。その結論以下でどう出るかわからぬ。
神についてか。
ちなみに主は何と言おうとしておったんじゃ？
ああ、フランツ司祭が異教の神々の話を集めていたのは、神がいることを確信するためじゃない。
Interesting theory.
毎日毎日祈っても祈っても姿すら見せてくれなければ、本当にいるのかどうか疑いたくなるだろう。だから、よその家がどうなってるか気になったんじゃないか。もしも異教の神が存在するなら、教会の神もいないはずがないと。
That is an interesting logic.
教会の神が作り、それを人が借りておるだけだと連中が勝手に考えておるだけじゃ。
まあ、それでも感じたかったんだろう。神の存在を。
ほら、こぼさないで。パンもちぎってから食べる。
わかったよ。そんなことよりロレンスさん、話の続きは？
Is he telling him stories?
船に乗ったところだよ。
ああ、そうか。まあ、船で一番驚いたのは食べ物だ。
食べ物？
いろいろな地方の商人が乗り合わせるからな。
Merchant stories.
ブゴドという地方から来た商人のパンはものすごく塩辛いんだ。
塩辛いパンだなんて。なあ。
そうね。
他にも真っ平らなパンとかな。粉を水で練ってパン種の妖精が入る前に焼くんだ。こっちは蜂蜜が入っているから甘くてな。うまかったよ。
へえ。やっぱり外の世界にはいろいろなものがあるんだな。
今日はわざわざご馳走を用意していただいてありがとうございました。
いえ、たくさん寄付をしていただきましたから、これくらいは当然です。
それで、この後ですが。
夜も本をお読みになって構いません。
助かります。
ならロレンさん、後でまた外の世界のこと聞かせてくれよ。
エヴァンは文字の練習です。
ああ、そうだ。
It's like they're married couple.
自分で考えてみます。尋ねる前に考えよ。フランツ司祭の口癖でしたから。
Clever man.
何の話だ？
なんでもない。ほら、いいから片付けを手伝って。
わかったよ。
お皿だけじゃなくてパンくずも拾って。
はいはい、わかってるって。
お行儀悪いから食べちゃダメよ。
言われなくても食べないよ。
ほんとかしら。エヴァンっていつも腹ペコだから。
あの二人、ずいぶん仲良かったな。え、そんなに変なこと言ったか？
あのな、主よ。わっちも大概 い把握しておる。
あ
あのな、主よ。
どうした？
そんな羨ましそうに言わんでほしい。わっちも
She's like, we get along too, right?
わっちらも相当たわけておるじゃろ。なんでこんなこっぱずかしいのかわっちにもわからぬ。じゃが仲が良さそうなどならわっちとは
Is she playing with him?
いや、それはそうなんだ。
No.
その、なんというか。いや、わかったわかった。わかっていたんだ。ただ、きちんと言葉にしたくなかった。俺は確かに羨ましいと思った。だが、それは二人の仲そのものじゃない。二人はこの先も教会で暮らすだろう。俺たちはどうだ？お前は故郷への手がかりを得た。
Hmm.
俺はその手伝いをしている。だが、俺は根なし草の行商人だ。だから、お前は故郷に帰ったらその先どうするんだ？
An important question.
わからぬ。
She doesn't know the answer. I mean,
そ
that's
れで満足なわけがないだろう。いや、よそう。悪かった。
わっちゃ堅牢ホロじゃ。わっちゃヨイツの堅牢ホロじゃ。
お
わっちゃヨイツの堅牢ホロ。
おなほ
文句あるかや？
いや、ない。
しばし寝る。代わりに本に目を通しておいてくれれ。
わかりましたよ。
Why did you bite him? Hello? We're starting love bites now, is that it? Ooh. Is that a ripped out page or additional notes?
私は特別視したくない。他にも同じ神と思われる話が出てくることは何度か。
The bear.
これほどまでにはっきりと系統だっているのはこの神だけかもしれない。教皇はこのことをご存知なのだろうか。私の予想が正しければ、我々の神は戦わずして勝利したこと。
Our God has triumphed without a
私は
fight.
それに平静でいられない。私はこの本をまとめたときに、神の存在をあまりにも強く感じた。
できれば、狭い心の中で我々の神を崇めるものではなく、広い草原で心地よい風のごとく神を愛する者たちに判断してもらいたい。
A horse.
月を狩る熊の本が見つかったぞ。
何かあったのかや？
その可能性が高いな。お前がこれを読んでどうしたいのか俺にはわからない。だが何か思うことがあったら正直に言ってほしい。
Honesty.
わかった。
Let's be frank, yeah.
約束する。
Don't know what happens now and how we have to react, so maybe I can't tell you.
机にあった書類を見る限り、エンベルクはこの村に手を出せないはずでは。
商人の方の目ざとさには感服しますね。私もそう思っていたのですが。
私は旅の人間です。何かしらの問題が起こると非常に危険な立場です。
私がいる限りそのような無法は許しません。地下室を閉めてください。エンベルクのことでしたら必ず村長が来ます。
私たちが深夜ここにいる理由は宗教談義をしていたからということで、すれば修道女ですので筋は通ります。
もう
Alright.
礼拝堂に。
Exchanging stories. Put the statue back.
お邪魔して申し訳ない。
何か
しばし不便な思いを我慢ください。
私は農園商業組合に所属しています。在クメルスン商館には私がこの村にいることを知っている者が多数います。
分かっています。ただこれは何も悪意からではありません。
Okay, they're cooking something.
この村の麦を食べた者が死にました。
Ooh. Okay. So what happens now? I mean, obviously, we are already in a tense situation. And you need to act upon it, right? So how do they get out of this? Next time. Orchestrated catastrophe and appropriate retribution. That is a long ass title. Let's walk it back. I don't know if I can talk a lot about this. Faith is not my specialty. Quite the opposite, actually. Alright, let's talk about it for a second, though. We have connivingly convinced her to take us in, and then we immediately open up and we're like, okay, I have to confess, I tricked you. I actually wanted to find out things. And now she's kind of put into a difficult situation because as a follower of God, right, as a priest, it is her duty to forgive the sins and take her own feelings out of this. And now he's turning, that's the interesting thing, he is turning the whole situation around. What a frame. He's turning the whole situation around and he's like, can you tell us about this? You are before God, don't lie. And he's using her own like duty and her like faith against her in a way. Obviously mischievous, but we do know, since we followed Lawrence and Hollow for so long, that they don't mean anything bad by it, and they always have the like the good of the people that they are approaching in mind. They wouldn't screw them over. And now they reveal the thing. I find it so funny that we have, first of all, we do have that frame where everything's kind of fisheye and she's looking at her, just like super close to her and looking down at the ears. And Holo's like smiling deviously like the devil himself, basically. And he's like, you want to touch them, and you do have that right under her nose, basically. And she's just losing consciousness. I didn't expect that. I don't think I remember that, but yeah, it is what it is. They say devils fool humans in their dreams. Right. I do wonder, like, somebody who knows, do let me know where this idea of like devil's possession came from. I guess there is a Bible verse or two that deals with it. I mean, we have that like famous I am Legion for we are many, right? I know that's out of some kind of like demonic possession thing, but I don't know where exactly and what. So yeah, interesting. I do feel like a lot of like Bible stuff is just the devil tempting you to do something that's not okay, which in this case is showing them tales about pagan god heresy or sin, or is it just an interesting observation of the habits of human beings? Because you can make arguments for both, right? Even within the church, you can make arguments about studying pagan religion just as a manner of understanding it and maybe bringing Christianity closer to people who might be more reciprocal to, or might be more leaning towards paganism, right? So there's an argument to be made for that. But obviously she revealed herself as some kind of non-human being, so there's this danger of, ooh, is she a devil? Right? Is she something else? But then there's like the whole debate about... I still like the direction, by the way, right? We do have like a very non-threatening frame. They're not coming too close to her. They're just looking at her. The light, like the lighting and the shadow is very well done. Well, I've seen it better done, but it's well done. Mother Franz always said there is no such thing as being possessed by the devil. Well, it's her father, right? Interesting how much she is in the shadow, basically saying that. Go through there, open up the statue. Very interesting how we have that top-down shot. That's really cool. Yeah. And she carries the books out, obviously, so we can close the statue at any time if we need to. And they're not locked in then, if they read outside. Didn't expect so many books. I will remember that you should never let your guard down around a merchant. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. And we pay her. We pay the church for God's blessing, which is like, oh, interesting. Interesting. Your sins are forgiven. Here, have some coin. See, don't plan to bring disaster upon the village. I have no reason to make a fuss. A being that should not be in a church, however. She is doubting her own faith, right? She's getting doubts. Maybe that is the reason why paganism was so bad for the church. It's like, okay, other gods, if they exist, then my God is false. No, why? Technically, right? I mean, obviously I'm not religious, but technically there can be a God and he could have created other like gods, either like divine beings. Obviously it's not in the scripture, so there's that. Right? But there is room, right? And you can still say like these are animals or like kind of beings like humans basically that weren't in the scripture, but that doesn't mean that they can't exist. Obviously it's always hard, but I mean, I don't know, cars didn't exist in the scripture. You know what I mean? Like everything that came into being through human hands doesn't exist in the scripture, so well, at least nothing that, like, the things that existed back then, right? I actually have to interrupt for a sec. Okay, yeah. It's very difficult to integrate different versions of faith with one another, no matter how close the similarities are. I think one of the interesting things about this is Christianity and Islam, which has a lot of overlaps when it comes to prophets that were declared, and the only difference is like that in Christianity, Jesus Christ is the Son of God, basically, and he comes back from the dead, and in Islam he's just another prophet who upon supposedly being captured and put on the cross actually didn't get put on the cross. There was like they confused there was purposefully some kind of magic thing going on that they confused him for another guy and put him on the cross, and Jesus actually survived. And that Muhammad is supposedly the last prophet, right? So there's only this difference and everything that basically Muhammad put down that differentiates Christianity and what they are all based on from Islam. And basically what Islam is saying that is that the Bible got altered down the line and that it's not the original anymore, and that is the reason why what Christians are believing in is kind of false, right? This is where this conflict is coming from. It's very interesting that also just like a lot of these religions that includes, as far as I know, Judaism, sprang forth out of a very similar like base. So, and the only claim that we make is that there's various differences as regarding to prophets and regarding to which parts of the book are actually true, and then and which ones got altered down the line through history and whatnot, right? Like, but it's very hard still to for people to kind of just like say, okay, my book might have inaccuracies in them because it's holy, right? It's like put up as this like thing that is infallible, and yet it mentions nothing of the modern world. So it's very interesting, right? Like there's how do you create a rule set that is supposed to establish the rules for all eternity, but then don't design them in a way that is at all suited for our modern times. So there's where these deficits come in. It's very interesting how a person, like back then, for example, believes in their scriptures and whatnot, and has this institution church that maybe is putting down additional things that are not even directly in the Bible, or interpreting things in a way that might not be necessarily the correct interpretation. But because they are the officials of the church, they are actually authority figures within the institution. Obviously, their word is more or less taken for granted. And then you come into conflict when your reality, your worldview is challenged. But oftentimes, I do feel like people, like these like crises of faith often come from the fact that they presume everything that they have been told, everything that they've read, and the way it's got put down is 100% accurate, and you can't move from that an inch. So when anything happens that actually the book doesn't, or the scripture or the rules don't account for, there's this huge problem that you do not know if that is a deception by the devil, right? Because we have this supernatural being within the scripture that's like, oh, this is the guy who is going to show up. He can disguise as anybody. He can tempt you to do anything that is not right? Almost like, and it's very interesting because in a way that is the concept of human desire and temptation, right? That is going against the morality of what keeps up a relatively peaceful society. And you do see the functionality and why a book like the Bible would have a lot of scenarios and similes and metaphors for these scenarios and situations where we get tempted to do something that is not good for us or not good for society happening. And we need a reason beyond just, well, it's possible that it isn't good for you down the line, to actually bind people, especially back in those days. But even today, there's enough people who would probably break a lot of laws and do a lot of shit if they wouldn't get punished for it, or if there wasn't like a higher instance, God, or like the institution, the religious institution or whatever, who says, well, if you do that, you're basically a sinner, you're basically through, you right, like you're doing the wrong thing according to the thing you believe in, that you got raised up to believe in. Feel though like crises of faith is often just like, some people actually take it as like a challenge, right? Like I think for Father Franz this was like, as we've seen later in the telling, it was a sign for him to actually look for more of these stories and understand, like maybe also just like the creation of God better in a way, right? To like, for him, this being kind of almost a confirmation that God exists, because all of these other gods, supposed gods, maybe in his mind, gods that are, in terms of status and power, on a lower level than their actual, like, than the actual God, right? The fact that they exist, supernatural beings that are beyond humans, makes it all the more likely that the God I've believed in all this time exists, which is a very optimistic and really cool interpretation of all of this. And it is a sign for just like how you can adapt to challenging and stressful situations, because in this case we had a situation that threatened his worldview, threatened his way of life, challenged it, and he met that challenge by saying, okay, I see that as a test of my faith, and I want to find a way to still believe in what I believed in while accepting this new reality. So I'm not denying the reality, and I'm not abandoning my belief, which is a very interesting thing to do and a very cool concept to show in such a show. I love how how Holo keeps trolling here. And she's like, when she's coming in, she's like, no, keep your arm here. I want to cause a misunderstanding. But yeah. It's nice that they're actually, like, Lawrence is so observant, where he's like, oh, I trust her not to tell Evan because she told Evan all of these things, including like how often she sneezed in a day. But she didn't tell about her first meeting. So she can keep a secret if she has reason to. Prayed day after day, but never saw a hint of him. It makes one want to question God's existence. Isn't that why he grew interested in the gods of others? Pagan gods truly exist, and there's no way God himself doesn't. Interesting way to put it, right? Like, very interesting way. And she's like, God does not exist. All the church believes that God created this world and that humans are merely borrowing it, correct? Even so, I'm sure he wanted to feel his existence. I do wonder why for Holo that is actually a reason to believe that God doesn't exist. Right, that he created all of this and that humans are merely borrowing it. What about that makes her say God doesn't exist? But I understand Lawrence's sentiment of like, he wanted to feel the presence, basically, what he always believed in. And Lawrence is telling merchant stories about faraway dishes and whatnot. Especially also related to Miller's, because he's talking about bread. And they're basically bickering and talking to each other like an old married couple. I mean, this is supposedly the Catholic Church and not the Protestant Church, so she wouldn't be able to marry him. So I'm very curious about how deep their relationship really is. But yeah. I mean, nobody says that you can't have a companion as a priest, I think. Also, Catholic Church never or rarely ever had female priests back in those days, so it stands to reason that maybe that is a kind of like at least another parallel world church and not the actual Catholic Church of our reality. They get along well, and we have that little moment where she's so insecure about them not getting along all that well and him sounding envious. And he's like, I'm not envious because of their relationship, I'm more envious about like that it feels like they have a home. And I myself, I'm wondering where the two of us will be down the line when you found your home, right? You're not gonna, like, you might be staying there, but I'm a traveling merchant. I make my money traveling from place to place and actually selling stuff. So how is this gonna work? But then he puts it back. He's like, yes, I've thought about that, but and she's like, she doesn't know. I wonder why she keeps repeating that. I'm the wise wolf hollow. I mean, in the past, it always has been for her that thing of like, I'm the wise wolf hollow. I have answers to everything. And now there's this thing that she doesn't know how to deal with it, right? What to do. And now she's like repeating it 3 times over, almost like she wants to reassure herself that she will have an answer for it. Right? Almost like to keep up her self-image. And then she's just seeking comfort in him and rest, sleeping. The bite could also be a stress bite, kind of. You know what I mean? Like, just like being tense and needing to release that tension on like a physical level. Represented in various stories, I believe, is the only one I have been able to connect with others so thoroughly. If my assumptions are correct, our God has triumphed without a fight. I cannot possibly remain calm if this is true. I could not help feeling strongly the existence of God as I assembled this book. I hope that this will not be judged by narrow-minded worshippers, but those with open hearts whose love of God is like a gentle breeze in a vast field. A poet, are we? Alright, so I don't know about this new situation. It's gonna be very interesting. So they say like wheat out of their village did kill somebody in Enbrecht, or however that other town was called. And he's like, we don't have ill intentions with you. Enberg. Right, and now they are like, we need to defend ourselves. So I do wonder what they think about like Holo and Lawrence, and what they want to do with them, if they want to hide them or like keep them out of their business, right? Send them out and be like, okay, you go, we need to defend our village, or maybe it's like just like let's huddle up in the church. But it was kind of a cliffhanger, so we'll see what happens. We're gonna watch episode 23 after a quick little cut. Yeah. It's gonna be very interesting. Let's open it up and finish this one off, right? Soon we'll be done with this one, and you obviously will get a review down the line, probably even earlier than you might think. Like some light novel reading, if I can manage to do that. I'll see you in a bit. Right, Spice and Wolf episode 23 starts in a 3, a 2, a 1, a bam. Ooh, music. Shoemaker. Okay. I mean, but the bread could still be. What do you mean? I mean, I guess that's sense. You deadliest hellfire. Ooh. Okay. Return all of it. No money. Ah, this is gonna be difficult.
それだけじゃないだろう。今年は大豊作だったからね。私んとこで仕入れた酒や食べ物も上等だった。そこにもあんたらの金が使われてる。問題はまだある。こいつが恐ろしいのは死人が出て終わりとはならないところ。
Yeah.
どこにまだ毒が紛れているかわからない以上、今年収穫された麦はすべてもう食べることができない。
They need to get rid of it.
どうするんだ。貧乏はまだしも空腹は我慢できねえ。その通りだ。だが、毒麦を混ぜたのはこいつらだ。麦を持って村に来たというじゃないか。そうだ。あんた粉を引きに水車小屋に行ったよな。粉引きと組んでこの村を破滅させに来たんだろ。
Of course, the Miller boy.
どっちも縛り上げてどこの麦に毒を混ぜたのか吐かせてやる。
待ってください。
女の出る幕じゃねえ。スカンダル。なんだって？
エヴァンは教会にいます。
今重要なのは村に返される麦のこと。そして受け取った金をどう返すかだ。
Ah, we got a brainstorm.
仕方ねえだろう。来年まで待ってもらうしか。
それだけで済めばよいが。どういう意味だ。エンベルクはこれを機に村と町の関係を昔に戻すかもしれん。何を言うんだ。連中は村に手出しできないはずだ。フランツ司祭がそうしてくれたんだろう。大体エルサじゃ無理だったんだ。舐められて当然じゃないか。そうだそうだ。一日中教会にこもって畑にも出ないくせに。今年の麦が豊作 先だったのもトルエオ様のおかげだ。
教会の娘なんて何の役にも。
やめないか。各自収穫祭の後に振り分けた金と冬の備蓄がどれだけあるか確認してくれ。エンベルクの使いが来るのは早くとも夜明け頃だろう。我々も一度解散する。
There's a lot of tension going on, and a lot of fear, right? Starving is not a great thing.
辛いだろうが今は我慢してくれ。イーマさんはエルサと教会へ決起に流行ったものが押しかけてくるかもしれん。
任せときな。
Good that we have such a smart elder. Ooh, but he's saying it calmly.
私がセムソン長の立場でも同じことを言うでしょう。
あなた方の身の安全とこれ以上我々の疑念を深めないために私の家に来ていただきたい。
Difficult situation, right? Yeah, I didn't remember that they actually put some wheat in the... that sucks. But yeah, anything that you could blame at this point in time, right? Because this is a threat of life, basically. See, I'm not a wolf, I'm a monkey. It's really a good thing that they have this elder, because he probably saved Lawrence's Heights and Elsa's too. Just by being level-headed. And understanding that it's not always this easy, right?
状況があまりにもできすぎている。どう考えてもエンベルクがテレを支配したいがための自作自演としか思えない。それでもこんな罠を仕掛ければエルサの後ろ盾が黙っていない。だから連中は誰か身代わりが欲しかった。
Yep.
そこにのこのこやってきたのが俺たちだった。きっと村にこんな取引を提案するんだろう。麦に毒を混ぜた犯人を突き出せば金を返すのを待ってやろうとな。
主はそれに甘んじる気かや。
まさか。しかし。
逃げれば毒を混ぜたと認めるようなもの。
Yeah.
主の人相書きが出回り。
俺の商人としての生命は一貫の終わりだな。
主の組合とやらに助けを求めるのはどうなんじゃ。
組合にか。それができれば。ああ、そうか。お前の背に乗れば馬より早く別の町に逃げられるか。
当然じゃ。
毒麦を使った商人が出たなんて話は大問題だ。組合は全力で否定してくれるだろう。
そうなればわっちらをはめようと思っておる連中も諦めるやもしれぬな。
しかしその後吊るし上げられるのは誰だ。
The village.
立場上村人から常に疑われ、いつでも毒麦を混入できるエヴァンだ。
Yeah, Millers are being the... yeah.
だがそうなると
あの小娘も危険とあれば乗せればよい。主はたわけのお人よしじゃからな。まったくめんどくさい。
すまないが助かる。
さて、お二方は一体何者なのでしょうか。
それはすでにお伝えしてあります。
確かにお聞きしました。きっとそうなのでしょう。あなた方は D エンドラン修道院を探しておられた。一体何のご用が。
クメルスンでお会いした方からそこの修道院長を紹介されまして。
あなた方はエンベルクから頼まれてきたのではないのですか。
確かに。
That would also have been a possibility.
通過点の一つです。私たちはあくまでも私たちの目的のために D エンドラン修道院を探していました。
そんな嘘を。
私たちはエンベルクとこの村の争いには全く関係していません。私が争いについて把握できたのはこの村で見聞きしたこと、それに自身の経験からです。
本当に関係がないのですね。
本当です。
もしもそうならば知恵とお金を貸してくださいませんか。
知恵は貸せます。ですが
ただでとは言いません。あなた方の身の安全と引き換えに。
脅しですか。
有無を言わさず縛り上げないのはロレンスさんが小麦を持って挨拶に来てくれたからです。
わかりました。というほかないようですね。ただし、もしも事態を挽回できた暁には、 それなりの報酬をいただきます。
Okay.
承知しました。
A deal where you can make some profit.
最初に言っておきます。この騒動はエンベルクの自作自演です。
続きを。
はい。エンベルクの目論見はおそらくこうです。あなた方は返された麦のお金を返すことができない。そこであちらは来年の麦を買うからその代金を支払いに充てるよう要求してくる。
それはどういう。
来年実るはずの麦を今のうちから値段を決めて買うということです。ですが、まだ存在しないものにお金を払うわけですから、当然買い叩かれる。あなた方はその埋め合わせを再来年の麦でしなければならず、その繰り返しで年々苦しくなっていく。そうやって弱みにつけ込んで、最終的にはフランツ司祭が交わした契約も破棄するよう迫ってくるでしょう。
Yeah. It's like a spiral.
金さえかからなければ、そう思って必死にフランス司祭の残したものを守ろうとしたのですが、まさかリデリウスの豪華な。
念のためですが、本当に偶然毒麦が出た可能性はないのですか？
呪われた麦は黒くベトベトしています。村でわからないものはいません。不注意で人が死ぬほどの量が麦に混じるとは思えません。先ほど少しエルサと話をしてきましたが、エルサはエンベルクをすぐに疑ったようです。私は情けない。麦を買ってくれるところがありさえすれば安泰だと、それ以上のことが全く頭になかった。まさかこんなことやり返されるな。
Yeah. The church back then.
お話がしたいのですが。
エルサに会いたい？
セム村長には私の知恵と財産を貸すことで身の安全を保証してもらっています。そして正確な情報を得るためにエルサさんとお話を。
エルサ、エルサ。どうしました？
お話をしに参りました。
大丈夫かい？信頼はできませんが、信用はできます。この方たちは少なくともお祈りの仕方は心得ていますから。わかったよ。
Okay.
どうぞ。あなたは外で。
なんでだよ。
お願い。
わかったよ。
エヴァン。これを落としたらどんな商人だって大泣きする財布だ。信用の証だと思ってくれ。
エンベルクがこんな手を使うなんて。
Yeah.
後ろ盾の方たちは父のために協力してくれているようなもの。これ以上の願い事をしたらきっと離れてしまう。
でしょうね。それでエルサさんとしては今後私たちがどうなると思いますか？
私に聞くのですか？
エンベルクの描いた劇の流れを読めるのはエルサさんか、あるいはイーマさんくらいのものでは。
それとあなた方でしょう。
Kind of.
私たちは逃げようと思います。
たとえ馬があったとしても、あなた方二人が逃げ切れるとは思えません。
We don't need a horse.
勝利の少女ならですね。
ではなぜ逃げないのですか？
まずこの教会に残された本をまだ読み終わっていないため、もう一つは私たちがいなくなれば次に吊り上げられるのは誰なのか。
エヴァンも連れて逃げられる自信があるのですか？
それだけではなく、あなたも。
本については今さら拒む理由がありません。ただ読む時間が。
最低限目を通したいのは一冊。
祭壇の下に隠しんす。あれだけ読めれば、この状況じゃ多くは望まぬ。
Oh, she heard something.
まったく。祭壇の下に本があるらしいから取ってきて。
Oh, he had an axe in his hand.
逃げるのを止めも進めもしません。ですが、それまで商いの知恵を貸していただけませんか？
ただ満足いく答えが出せるかは保証できません。
商人の方はそのセリフがお好きなようですね。
用心深いものです。
Yes. It's better to say that.
けどこれって司祭のあの異教の昔話だろ。
ちょっと失礼します。
主よ、怒りのあまりに本を破いてしまったら代わりに謝ってくれるかや。
謝るのは構わないが、本を破って涙だけは拭くな。
わっちの涙なら主が喜んで高く買ってくれるからの。主の前で流さんと損じゃ。
宝石なら偽物に注意しないとな。
しばらく一人で読ませてくれれ。
感想は聞かせてくれ。
Hmm. Yeah, it's gonna be difficult, right?
エルサが心配するようなことはないって。ここにいない方がいいなら向こうに行くけどな。
それで、私の知識と経験はどんなお役に立てるでしょうか。
セム村長が言うには、麦をすべて返品されたら70リマーは足りないと。
70リマー。
Alright.
それだけじゃありません。備蓄していた麦は食べられなくなったので、食料を買うためにもお金。
Mm-hmm.
父が残した契約さえあれば、こんなことにはならないと思っていたのに。
その考えは間違っていません。ですが、村の方たちがその恩恵の凄さを全く理解していなかった。
父から聞きました。よその村は農作業のない冬も必死に内職に勤しんでいると。村の土地を奪われないよう、少しでもお金を稼げるように。なのにここは。
その通りです。ですが、今は嘆いていても始まりません。
We need to make something happen.
私が嘆いていては父にフランツ司祭に怒られ。
What does she have a health condition? Right, I mean, it's a lot of stress, I know that, but hmm.
なあ、ロレンスさん。村の連中は俺とロレンスさんのことを疑ってるんだろ。
そうだ。
そうだよな。盗み聞きしてたわけだけど、逃げられるって。
その話か。そう。
Oh, I love this kind of music, by the way.
意見としては、お前ら二人も連れて行きたい。
全然身勝手なんかじゃないだろ。俺はこんなところで死にたくない。エルサだってこんな村出たいはずなんだ。フランツさんを恩人だなんて村の連中は言うけど、感謝なんてしたことねえんだよ。
Yeah.
司祭の教えなんかには聞く耳持たず、村の昔からの神には山ほどのクモスをするのに、教会にはパンの一かけらもくれやしない。セム村長とイーマさんがいなければ、俺たちはとっくに飢え死にだ。
Yeah.
その世界も確かに楽じゃないが、この村よりはマシかもしれない。
イーマさん。
あんた、
ロレンスです。
ロレンスさんが二人もろともにここを逃げ出せるのなら、そうした方がいいんじゃないかと思う。いいや、逃げてほしい。
ならやっぱりエルサを説得しないとな。
ああは言ったけど、あんたたち一体どうやって逃げるつもりなんだい？
ある日、山奥でビールの仕込みをしている乙女に出会う人間がいるのなら、ある日同じくらい不思議な存在に出会う者がいてもおかしくはないでしょう。
妖精に出会ったとでも言うのかい？
そんなところです。
It's like, I have my ways. It's very interesting how we talk around it without saying it.
ほぼな。
わっちはもう目的を果たしんす。
そうか。
気になるなら読んでみればよい。
ああ。土地の神々は一目散に逃げ出した。木の実が枝から落ちるほどの時間で、ヨイツは熊の爪によって引き裂かれた。これだけ？
The wolves fled? Is that it?
腹が立つような視線を向けられておる気がするが、気のせいかや。
そんなことは。いや、あるよ。悪かった。そんなに怒るなよ。
昔の仲間が無事逃げられたというだけでわっちゃ満足じゃ。
They seem to have gotten away.
何もありんせん。
世の中、本当にままならないな。
まったくじゃ。で、どうするんじゃ？逃げるならさっさと決めてくりゃれ。
もちろん逃げる。
今回は主の大損じゃな。
仕方ない。小麦は持ち出すなんて無理だしな。持ち運びのできる高価なものなら、こういう事態でもどうにかなるんだな。
So what are we doing? We're going to the other village?
香辛料以上に軽くて持ち運びのできる高価なものがある。信用だ。
主からの信用が高くなったら売りに出さんとな。
俺がお前にからかわれすぎて疑心暗鬼になっていることを知っているか？
では取り戻しておこう。
Regain the trust.
ことをされるからというのがわからないのか？
嘘は信用を落としんせ。ま、主は一度もワッチを責めなかった。それは素直に嬉しい。ワッチがここに来たいと言わなければ主は損をしなかった。
Yeah, but
埋められるように飲食を控えるんだな。
主も最近は加減を知らなくなってきてな。
奴らのせいに決まってるんだ。この引きも出てこい。
来るんじゃないよ。奥に行ってな。
しかし
私が出て説得を。
バカ言うんじゃないよ。
でも
I'm gonna tear you apart.
火に油を注ぐようなものさ。
Hmm.
あんたはエヴァンの坊やと仲良し小良しだからね。エンベルクにこびるためにあんたを異端として差し出すかもしれないよ。いいかい？あんたらはもうこの村にいたってダメだ。
Hmm.
どこにいたって大変なら。
If they flee, right, they will be blamed, but there's nobody to punish.
捨てなければならないものは多いけど、新しく手に入れられるものだって多いはずさ。ほら、どんな旅路であっても分かれ道を選ぶのは一瞬だ。
同意見ですね。
逃げたいです。
Right, we are convinced.
任せよという代わりに一つ条件がありんす。これから先見ることは夜明け前の夢と思うことじゃ。
It never happened.
あたちゃビールの妖精だからね。酔っ払って何も覚えちゃいない。
では任せるがよい。ただワッチは主らを連れておっても外の連中を軽々飛び越えられるが、主らがそれに耐えられるかわからぬ。
この教会に裏口などは？
フランツ司祭から地下室の奥に通路があると。
Ooh, we have underground passages.
すぐにここを出る準備を。
はい。
なーに、出ていくのに多少でも準備できるだけマシさ。
故郷が明日にでも消えてなくなるわけじゃあるまいしの。あるだけマシじゃ。
おや、妖精さんもかい？
妖精みたいなひ弱な連中と一緒に住んでない。
すぐに準備してきます。
それじゃあ、はい、行った行った。
さすがのワッチも見た目の貫禄で負けたの。心配するでない。ワッチはこれ以外の人の形になれぬ。
それは残念だ。俺はもう少し豊かな体
Don't push your luck.
さっさと地下室を開けぬか。
Don't push your luck with your jokes, Lawrence. Alright, we gotta break down walls.
では、いいですね。
はい。
Alright. Next time.
次回、蛇神の道と堅牢の答え。
Path of the Snake God and Answer of the Wise Wolf. Hey, we continue with our journey. Yeah. Next station, where? I don't know. But we're gonna wrap this up the next time. Yeah, one thing I have to say about this is it's really hard to find. And maybe it doesn't seem that way, but it's really hard for me to find a lot of things to talk about because, well, for various reasons, I think. I'm not quite sure why, but I think one aspect of this is the structure of how Spice and Wolf is set up, which is oftentimes we are creating a mystery and giving us somewhat of a view and an explanation of a certain area and certain people, and then we are basically kind of like a detective novel, like a Sherlock Holmes or whatever, setting up certain pieces, but in a way that the audience cannot piece things together without the help of Lawrence and or Holo, because they pick up things that we don't immediately see. And as a result of that, it ends up being kind of more of a slice of life we take it as we go show, rather than a show where you can look ahead and be like, okay, this is probably what's going to happen, and this is how we're going to solve this. Now, on the one hand, it's often used, like this narrative structure is often used to display the characters that we want to display as cleverer than the audience, basically, right? We want to highlight how smart they are and how they put things together by not showing it to the audience partially, right? Or maybe just way in the background, and then bringing up assumed in more detailed version of that, and like conversations that we didn't fully listen to, or that we didn't listen to at all, just basically as the characters that we're following recall that. So obviously that is impressive, it keeps things new, it keeps things interesting, and with the addition of twists that we can't foresee, wheat being poisoned, right, for example. Now we could have seen some generic thing like that the other town is trying to mess a little bit to actually have a reason to come in here and annul that contract, or maybe even aggressively attack the church here in town, but not to the degree that like the specifics that we are seeing here, right? But still, we have some stuff that we can look at that is really cool. Some of like the shots I don't like this one, for example, where the fire interacts weirdly with the models of the characters that we see here in frame. It feels weird in terms of like the art style and whatnot. But the more detailed shots look good again. So yeah, I don't know. The lighting here, for example, is also done well. So it's not like this shot again. The framing of the shot is really cool, with like having the tree branches reaching over the fire and over our meeting, basically, by kind of making it seem almost like we are a crow listening to the conversation going on down below. It's making things more conspiratorial, right? And more like shadowy and like secret meeting kind of thing, right? As we are talking about these things. A bumper harvest. Money's been spent here, right? That means she's saying like we had a good harvest, so we spend a lot of money here with alcohol and whatever, right? So we threw a lot of money out because she thought we had a lot. And now that this is coming back to bite us in the ass, we have even less than we would normally have, despite the bumper crop that we had. Yeah. Yeah, so they have to throw away the entire wheat because obviously, if you think about it, anything could be affected. So they're like, let's be sure that nobody is dying. So throwing all of the wheat out means that, first of all, they have to give back all the money, and second of all, they themselves can't be sure that the wheat hasn't been contaminated, so they have to throw it out themselves and have to buy food with money. They can't get over the winter otherwise, right? And now they're pointing fingers, right? It's like, you came in just at the right moment. You conspired with the miller, right? The miller who we established very early in the arc. That millers are always being treated lowly because they, because of like the money they take, like, and it often like feels like they're taking too much money for work that actually just the mill is doing, basically, right? So it always like is a thing about like he's taking too much money from us, right? So the miller is not seen in a good light most of the time, despite the decent work that a miller is doing, right? And she's trying to defend it, but it's like, we should have known that with a woman and whatnot. So we have that argument from last time. It was like Catholic Church and woman, yeah. So this is an exception with a woman and whatever. And I think they said that a couple of episodes ago as well. And it was kind of shaky to begin with, right? But we do have the elder, and this is why he's the village elder. He's experienced a lot. He's pretty smart cookie, so he's like, you know, let's make sure that you're not being attacked, because we know that the like some of the more like high-tempered villagers are gonna point fingers immediately. They're gonna be like, you, right? Especially since they don't even believe in the church, and that has just all been a cover story with Father Franz, and they themselves are like pagan worshippers. So it's like, you're the outsider anyway. Yeah. The wheat harvest this year was all thanks to Lord Troyo. Right, the backer. How many provisions they already have prepared. Let's disperse for now, right? And he's like, you go there, right? You go to church. Ilma, you go with him, right? Because she's like a very strong woman. So it's like, if you the two, I trust you, and if you support her, then and with Evan and whatnot, then you can maybe like fend yourself off against one or two people who are coming in and thinking of knocking on the church doors. And he's like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I suspect you because you this is pretty sus, but I'm not gonna judge you immediately because I know that can be wrong. But I want you to come with me, right? I wanna like keep you secure, basically, keep you from the villagers. And that is also his kind of his bargaining chip, because he's like, I'll keep you secure from all of these people who would be judging you in a heartbeat and just put you forth as the guilty person without the guilty party without actually being able to prove that. And that he's using that to get information out of them. Now, be honest with me, why are you really here? What are you doing? Right. Perfect opportunity. Right, and now they're getting into this whole thing, right? The vicious circle of, yeah, you'll pay us back next time, right? And then they haggle the price down. The next time, maybe they don't have enough. And then they're like, well, you can pay us next time. They haggle the price down again. And so they get to this natural state that all the other villages are in, where they have to pay heavy taxes on the wheat and whatnot. If you run, it would be like admitting we poison, which is not that bad, right? But they would be immediately punished for it, right? Evan and Elsa. The association. Of course, the association would fervently deny such accusations, but then who would take the blame instead? They blame Evan. But then... Right, and she's like... Oops, sorry. That girl is in danger. I shall carry her as well. You're foolishly good-natured after all. How troublesome. And he's like, thank you. So he's like, if all of the troublemakers are out of the way, they can't blame anybody. And our like our people, like my association, would deny the accusations. He's like, all right, if I rode on your back, we could flee to another town faster than on horseback, of course. Would be a huge problem if news got out that a merchant poisoned some wheat. The association would fervently deny such accusations. That is the case. The ones trying to entrap us may give up. But then who would take the blame instead? So he's like, yeah, my association got my back, right? I don't know what he means with like, we would be quicker to get there. Because it's like, is that an advantage because the association would defend you, right? Or is it like just about getting to an association house and be like, look, I didn't do anything, right? I don't know. Right. And we open up, right, with a little bit. For him, not completely, but a little bit. Wisdom, the only reason I did not simply tie you up, culprit, was because you brought weed as a gift when you came to greet me. And that's how important first impressions are, right? Or how important relationship work is, right? Talking to people, trying to understand them, understanding their customs, being able to build rapport very quickly. And this is where Lawrence is good, because he is a merchant and he knows the customs. Obviously, there are merchants out there who don't care about these things, and that might get them in trouble down the line. So if you want something from somebody, well, first rule, try to make a good first impression and try to know what their customs are and how to make that good impression, right? Right, and we have a trade deal. I do wonder if he just said that, right? Like, cool, by the way, with the table shot, right? Like the meeting shot, basically, again, right? Because we're looking at it from the ceiling, basically. It's like strategic. That's what it expresses. We cannot depend on them, but we can trust them, right? They're not going to betray us, but I don't know if they can help us. That's what she's saying. At the very least, the two of them know the proper method of prayer. So it almost sounds like a code, but I don't know what that means. Maybe she just means, yeah, they know the customs of the church. And he wants to protect her, which is very sweet, but at the same time, Lawrence kind of almost as a guarantee. Look, I'm a merchant. There's a lot of money here. You take care of it. You watch that money and you give it back to me when she's safe, right? Basically. The backer's only supporting because of the father. Right. And obviously he's listening in, which is funny. Right. Like half in the shadow, really cool framing, right? He's like somewhat in the light, but he's like doing a sneaky thingy. And we open the door. Promise, like, Lawrence, like, no promises, and she's like, you say that a lot. But yeah, I would be the same, like, no promises for something I can't guarantee. That is the first thing you learn probably as a merchant, is like, don't promise anything that you can't guarantee. Because then somebody's gonna be like, you promised and you didn't hold it, right? Like, he isn't a politician, clearly. Tear this book apart in anger. Will you apologize on my behalf? Don't mind apologizing, but don't tear the book apart just to wipe your tears. Don't tear it apart just because you're sad. You would happily buy my tears at a higher price. It'd be a waste not to cry before you. Let me go into these like little games that we play. Shout out to Vincent, I think, right? Oh, it's a Lollyman. Frieren. I remember the little games that we play. A very... Yeah. I mean, I've read a couple of passages. I haven't read or bought the book. So sorry about that. But yeah, I remember that. It's interesting how naturally we are switching from jokes and just like just words that we exchange, right, as kind of like a routine, back and forth, teasing, whatever, too serious. And he puts down the candle and looks at her for a second. Probably concerned, just assessing. She must be feeling right now, right? Is she nervous? What is she anticipating? She looks at him and she's like, yeah, I'd like to read now. And he respects that. He goes out, one last look. And probably hope. As like, if he was a religious man, I'd say a prayer, but no. Just hope that when he sees her again, things won't be different. And that she will be okay. Very funny, right? This too, right? He comes in holding hands and she's like a little bit embarrassed about it because obviously it's not seemly for a priest. Yeah, and we discuss what a unique position we are in. And Evan shares his own thing, right? His own experience where he's like, I'm the miller. People hated me. They don't appreciate me. And they don't appreciate her as well, right? They never come to the church. This is why the two of them found each other, because they're both kind of ostracized by the community. Not even Franz. Franz was just useful for them. They never offered a single piece of bread for the church. So without the village head or Miss Ilma, we would have starved to death a long time ago. Just like very sad if you think about it, right? Just because they are kind of regarded suspiciously, people are like, nah. I remember how warm they were with Lawrence in the tavern. And how coldly they treat them. But also how turn-faced they are, right? When something threatens their lives, they're like, they are responsible, right? Immediately externalizing it, being like, okay, this is not my issue. I'm not to blame. And obviously they are not to blame in this situation, but they're like, I'm not to blame. Let me blame somebody else who's possibly innocent. But then the suspicion comes out. It's like, you want to screw us over, right? You're like, you worked with the church, right? Whatever. It's natural, right? It's like self-defense mechanism. Serious shadows from the lighting. Great, well done with the lighting, really. In some of these scenes. And she's realistically asking, can you really do it? Because she doesn't want them to try and then just fail and die. If it's something. She wants there to be, she wants to see that Lawrence is convinced that they can make it. Yoitsu was shredded apart by the bear's claws. And the picture in the thing shows four in this case, but maybe potentially many more, right? As a metaphor for many more. Wolves fleeing from the bear. I do wonder what that bear is, right? Like, it's so... And who believes in him, and what he represents, right? Because there's something, right? For Holo, it's like wisdom, right? Wisdom and harvest and whatever. But she became the god of harvest later on, obviously. But she had like the white wolf, the wise wolf moniker before that, right? When she was in Yoitsu, I think, or maybe she got it when she made the contract. Satisfied to hear that my old friends seem to have gotten away. There was nothing else. Yeah, nothing in the world goes as one wishes. Well, I wouldn't say nothing, but rarely. Really cool shot. Looking ahead. Him standing behind her, and then her looking back, kinda, and him reacting to that. Closing the book. We can't take the wheat with us. If the goods were expensive and more portable, we'd have options like peppers, but we have wheat and we won't be able to sell it. Seems I will have to sell your trust once it grows higher in value. Well, you gotta raise it a lot, he's saying. I got really paranoid of your teasing. Right, that you're just joking with me and whatnot. He's like, guess I'll have to regain it. He's like, we could tighten the budget. It's like, this is the great thing, because it's like their dynamic and we see that everything is alright again, right? The things are tense still, but like there's this constant trust and relationship between the two of them that is expressed in their playfulness with one another, even in hard times, even in tense times. Right. She wants to go out. She's one of the honest types, right? She's like, I'm gonna face them, I'm gonna convince them, but Ilma is like, nah. Is that they're just gonna use this as an excuse. Get out of here. And Ilma's like, this is your part. You need to agree in this case, right? She's very observant in that case. Despite the fact that she's not as versed in human customs, right? She picks up on that very quickly. You might have to give up a lot of things, but there should be a lot of things that you'll gain on the way. No matter the journey, choosing your path at a fork takes only an instant. And he's like, I couldn't agree more. Think of everything that happens after this as a dream before the dawn. When she reveals herself. And Evan and Ilma are like, alright, whatever you say. First time I saw something like that, right? She's like, oh, I guess snake gods might exist. Lucky that we can make some preparations. Even I have lost to her strong sense of presence. He's like, you're impressed by her? Wow. She's like joking around. This is the only human form I can take, don't worry. And he's like, unfortunate, I would have preferred her. That deadpan face is amazing. Look at that. He's like, seriously, screw you. Boom. Yeah. All right. And we're on the journey. We're fleeing from this godforsaken town, literally. All right, that was Spice and Wolf episode 22 and 23. Tune in next time for 23 and 24 and 25. If you like this, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel. The first people seeing this are on Patreon anyway, so thanks for the support. I appreciate it. And thanks for not, like, the couple of people who are really interested in Spice and Wolf, thanks for not being angry with me or disappointed that I dropped this for a while. It's just like, sometimes you're not planning everything and you don't have enough time. You have to like take priorities and whatever. So I do hope I get to record 24 and 25 relatively soon, and then we can wrap this up and I can finish this off with maybe a week or two later recording like recording the review of the last two arcs, just to go over it a little bit again, tell you what I liked, what I didn't like, and maybe read two passages out of the respective parts of the novel, just to get a little bit something out of that, because I really, really want to get people to read the books if they like reading books. It's a great read, really, and I think the books are infinitely better than the actual series, both series, mind you. They're strong suits of the remake. I definitely think that there's some parts that it's doing relatively well. I do really like the music. Shout out to Kevin Penkin for that. He did a good job on that. And I do like some parts of the art. I do, however, prefer some of the parts of the older series as well, so there's that. But we'll talk about that a little bit more in the review, maybe. Until then, I'll see you next time.